I haven't gotten to draw a lot of commissions lately just due to many different circumstances and reasons, but I did get to do this adorable cat about a month ago, and honestly, I think I really have enjoyed the result. I was kind of at first, just, picky because as when you are your own artist, you're also your own um, worst or best critic, depending on how you treat yourself. But I definitely looked at this many times when I was done, and also while in process of drawing it, thinking, okay, I can really improve on such and such, especially when it comes to drawing smaller. I really want to make it look as sharp as possible, but it is quite difficult to do so. So I do the best that I can, and I try to make sure my pencil is nice and sharp, especially for the details themselves. So these eyes here, there's a little bit of green, yellow, brown in there, mixed in there. And you can see that I left room for the lighter areas, like the highlights and also just the light areas, so that you can see the difference, the contrast between the shaded part of the eye and then what's showing up more because of the lighting. But you can really see the difference now. Details matter a lot. So focusing on the reflections, the shape of the reflection, and then also getting the outline of the eye itself, having it nice and sharp too. You don't want that line to be too thick or too thin at the same time, but I would rather it be too thin, that way you can still fix it later on. And now moving on to the face itself, I like to draw left to right. I talk about that all the time just because it prevents smudging, since I am right-handed. You can, if you're left-handed, just do the opposite. Draw right to left. I'm using a very odd color, something that you wouldn't think to use in tabby cats, but this one had quite a bit of orange in it, so that's why I'm applying more of like a sun orange color. And then I'm using some reds. So this is like a burnt sienna color. And I think adding that on top of the orange kind of enhanced that warm tone that's coming out of the orange already. And then you'll see that I actually use a huge variety of different colors in this portrait. And you'll see how I build up the layers. I also go back through some of the this particular like part of the hair with different colors, just so that I'm making sure that it does look as true or as accurate to the real colors that this cat had in real life. And this cat, her name was Pebbles, and she recently passed away, but she was quite the character. I can talk about her character a little bit more in the description below, but it was, it's a commission of mine, so I've never met this cat, but I like to get to know the personality of the pet portraits that I'm going to be drawing, because I really do think it makes a huge influence in incorporating that personality into the portrait itself. So if you are drawing pet portraits or getting started, or you're wanting to get started on drawing pet portraits for others, ask them what that pet was like, because it really does make a difference, and it also helps to make that client feel more comfortable with commissioning the pet portrait, because they feel like that you care about the pet and want to get to know this pet, and maybe it would help increase the personality into it as well. So that's why I like to ask. And I think it's just fun to kind of get to know the pet before I'm drawing, because it it really does feel like I am bringing about this pet's personality when I do get to know the pet. So that's why I like to ask. But you could definitely see that this cat, Pebbles, she had quite a personality. She's got this gorgeous bow tie on the top of her head, and in quite a few of her pictures, her eyes weren't open very much. So what I did was I just told my client, hey, this picture that you like and I like as well, it's a great pose, but the eyes are a little bit small. So what I'm going to do is just open them up a little bit. And I can do that now that I have the experience. I can just do that without having to look at another reference image. So if you've got enough experience and confidence, that's something that you can do as well. So if they want the mouth open or closed, or they want the collar taken off, or the eyes opened up, just small details like that that are not included in any reference images. You just try it out, practice it. Maybe practice it on your own pet portraits or just own animals, period, and see how well you do. But the more you practice it, the easier it gets, because then it becomes like second nature. So you can see below the nose here, I had to fix the mouth quite a bit. You'll see that I erase it, then fix it, erase it, fix it again. This whole area was just kind of lackluster. It was just misshape it a little bit and didn't look like the reference image very much. Didn't look like her. So I had to define it a little bit better and then make sure that it's fixed. So you can see that the line is just not as dramatic as I had it. And that ends up happening quite a bit when you're drawing small. So just be aware that that's going to end up happening, is you're going to end up making some pretty fat lines when you're drawing small. So just like try to be more delicate in your drawings. If you're already super delicate, maybe try to increase it a little bit more. I do know there are some artists or just students in general that are wanting to learn to draw. They're a little bit more timid, so they draw really lightly. But if you're one of those people, maybe draw a little bit heavier, have a little bit more, not necessarily confidence, but just like practice drawing heavier, and then you'll gain more confidence by the actual experience itself, because you're not going to get confidence until you gain the experience. That's really what confidence is through experiencing it and just doing it. Not, oh, I'm going to have confidence to do this brand new thing that I've never done. No, you don't have the confidence until you've actually done that thing quite a few times, and it almost becomes like second nature in a way. So don't go into it thinking that you're going to automatically have the confidence. I definitely did not have the confidence for quite a long time, several years of coming up with like realism in my head. So like opening the eyes up more. So when there was a pet portrait that just didn't look like it was a good pose or whatever, I kept asking the client, hey, can you like get me a picture that looks perfect, where it's got good lighting, it's not blurry, it's not pixelated, the eyes are open more, no collar in there. I kept having to ask the client those things, and it got to be frustrating on both sides in a way, because it's hard to get pictures of animals to begin with. So it could take a really long time to get that right picture, and then that just kind of slows down the whole process itself. But over time, you can just use a reference image that may not have, maybe this cat didn't have a bow tie on top. Okay, you want a bow tie from another picture on top of her head? Great, I can do that. Those kind of things will really make a big difference for the client to I guess you're more of a higher demand at that point because you can make those adjustments without having to request too much from the client themselves. And you've got that confidence that shows the client can see that you have that confidence to be able to make those adjustments. And then they don't have to worry nearly as much of, is she or he going to be able to add that additional thing to it and make it look realistic? I don't know. Those kind of things. It reduces the questions, essentially. And there was one client that wanted me to put a plaid bow tie on this male Shih Tzu, I believe it was. And so she just gave me a couple of images and she gave me a picture of the bow tie she was talking about. And so what I did was I also have experience with Photoshop and using Canva, which is a online website good for advertising and whatnot, but it's also kind of close to Photoshop in a way. There are some Photoshop parts in there. So what I did was I just clipped the bow tie and then I put it on right in front of the dog in the pose that she wanted it to be in. And I just showed her the mock-up image and she approved it and everything. And so I just drew it from there. So there's things like that. If you've got any Photoshop experience, you can do that instead of just doing it from your own imagination. So there's a little bit of imagination, a little bit of Photoshop, just things like that add up. But hey, if I'm like overcomplicating this, let me know. Or if you've got any questions on that, let me know too in the comments below. Also, if you're interested in learning to draw realistic pet portraits, I have a full 8-week program. It's actually at your own pace, but I categorize it into 8 weeks. That way you're not overdoing it. And each week is a specific category. So one week will have parts of different types of fur, different colored fur. The other week is different animal features like eyes, nose, ears, mouth. And then by the end, you'll follow along a full pet portrait tutorial. That's real time, like not real time, but it's real time. So it's not sped up and you just follow along. And then the very last week, you practice your own pet portrait and then you can ask me questions along the way so I can help you out with anything that you may be struggling with. So moving on to the bow tie here. I've done a couple of different bow ties. I've done different materials before, so it's actually quite a lot of fun because it may not look realistic at first, but then as you start to build up the layers and build up those different shapes, it starts to come a little bit more alive. So right now, I'm just worrying about the colors and the shapes, not necessarily the details in it. So you can see there's some viney lines going through, and then the black, I may have done it a little bit too heavy, but that's okay because I can kind of erase some of it. But those are just the creases in the bow. And so I'm using a light and a dark green to add some contrast in that greenery. And then I do go back over some of the flowers to add a little bit more detail too. And then for the actual body of the bow to add contrast in a sense of depth, because you see those creases right now, it looks like lines. There's not any contrast happening. So I add a light blue color to just kind of work on the lighting itself. Since this bow is technically a white bow, I used a light blue just to add, like the shaded areas, because a lot of shading with white tends to be cooler tones, like a blue tone. So that's what I did. And then I used the white color pencil to burnish over all that, so it smoothed it all out. And you'll see that here in just a minute. but I'm trying to add a little bit more detail to the rest of the bow here. And if you've got any questions about this part or any part about the rest of this portrait, let me know in the comments below. I am more than happy to help you. I really want to bring about a more of a community that actually enjoys being patient and loving the process of drawing, because it does require a lot of patience. But as you build up experience, you don't really feel like you have that patience anymore. It's just a matter of like, oh, I have to draw because it makes me feel, it calms me down and I feel more in the zone, and just gives you a sense of confidence too in yourself because you were able to accomplish something that's amazing and just having fun with it overall. I always say to my students and you guys that it's not about the end result, it's actually about the journey, the process itself, and learning to appreciate and have fun with the process will you will gain more of a realistic look and more of what you are trying to do ultimately than if you were just trying to make the results look good or look realistic or whatever. So focus on enjoying the process and don't give up. Like, just keep going with your layers. There's a lot of my students will say, mine doesn't look realistic. Like, it's not smooth. It's not realistic. It's very sketchy looking. And I tell them all you have to do is just keep building up those layers. Keep going. Use a variety of different colors. I always say a minimum of 5 color pencils in your hand at a time. You definitely want to have a big variety of different colored pencils, whether they be like the same, different types of browns or different types of orange colors, whatever. You want to have that variety because the more variety you have, the more your portrait will pop. And I just don't see a lot of students think that way. So when I tell them that, they actually start to gain more confidence as they're practicing with very odd different colors like purples, greens, blues, all of those different colors you just wouldn't think to use. When you start practicing with them, you'll see how they work with the rest of the colors in the portrait, and then that'll give you the confidence to keep going and keep layering up and making it look more realistic. So I used a little bit of like a green tone in some of this body, like where the white fur is. It kind of creates more of a golden tone, but it's to create that sense of like shading underneath the head there. So we're actually almost done here, and if you also want to learn learning, but also having fun and want to complete smaller portraits at a time, it creates more of a sense of satisfaction if you finish a portrait within a reasonable amount of time. So that's why I like teaching in smaller sizes. I have all sorts of different online classes that are at your own pace as well, but you can pick out whatever animal you want. So I've got like a bumblebee, I've got a hedgehog, I'll have a raccoon. There's all sorts of different animals that you can learn to draw from that are smaller sizes. And what that does is it gives you a sense of like of progress when you look at your first finished portrait to your most recent finished portrait within like a month's time span. That's all it really takes is for you to see that difference. Because if you were to start with a big portrait, you're not going to see your progress nearly as easily. So you're just not going to be as satisfied or motivated to continue drawing. So that's why I always recommend start drawing small first, finish that, move on to the next one, finish that one, and then put those all in order and go back and look at them. And that is like your portfolio. That is your timeline of your progress. And that is where you can actually truly judge whether you are making progress or not. But I promise you, you are going to make progress the more you practice. So I hope that helps. I hope that maybe you can start practicing those classes or just on your own, like little miniature portraits. And when I say miniature, I mean like 4" by 4" size. So this portrait here is 4x4. You really wouldn't believe it, but it is 4x4. I zoom in quite a bit on it. I like doing 4x4. 3x3 is too small. I can do it, and I have offered it in the past, but it's just too small for you to really gain a good experience and good practice with it. So just try out the 4x4. Maybe do a 5x5 if you want more white space, but I wouldn't go much bigger if you are new to any of this. Try the 4x4 and see if that's a good size for you. If you need to draw bigger, try like a 5x5 or 5x7. Those are also nice ones to try out if you think the 4x4 is too small. But now it's just a matter of adding those details, and you can see that I am drawing a little bit darker underneath the chin, and I'm just trying to get this shape to look natural and not so much out of shape, because I had a reference image that was not necessarily warped, but you could see that the face wasn't 100% full on forward. So I had to kind of make some adjustments so that she looked more even around the face. So those things, like the little details that I'm talking about, those things do matter and they add up. So you'll become used to looking at those things and comparing it to the reference image to see, okay, does the shape of the head look like it's the right kind of shape to the reference image? Or, like proportions is just a very hard thing to really teach. But over time, as you're experiencing, as you're practicing, it'll start to become second nature. You also don't want to forget the whiskers. So in the reference image, they're white, but because I can't really necessarily draw white on white for the left-hand side especially, I just use a dark sepia color pencil, make it really sharp, and just be very careful as you're drawing them. Make it really, really light pressure, and turn the pencil as you're going down or across or whatever, so that it consistently stays sharp and thin. And you can see I'm using a slice tool, which is kind of like an X-Acto knife almost, to get a little bit of a highlight for the whiskers. So I really hope that this video was helpful. I say that in every video, but I really do hope that it did help you. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments below. Check out all of those different programs and classes too. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.